Tony. This is Applejack, and I'm going to tell you a story about a Stuttering Start. Chapter 1, Saving the Studio. It was the year 1935. Winston's entertaining is the first to turn out tourists. Times had been hard for the animation side of Warner Brothers Studios. Money had been tight, very tight. The trouble was, Schlesinger didn't know whether it was due to the Depression or the new star that had hastily been made to replace Bosco after Harmon and Icing had walked out on them to work at MGM. The new star had burned out from the start. Then again, their cartoons had never really been given much attention compared to works made by either Disney or Fleischer. Maybe Warner Brothers didn't need an animation studio. A knock at the door snapped him out of his bitter thoughts. Come in, he grunted. The door was opened by a fresh friendly. Sir, he told his boss, we need fresh sales for the next Buddy cartoon. Schlesinger rolled his eyes in frustration. How many times do I have to tell you, Freeland? He muttered. We don't need new sales for every carton you work on. Go get Jones to wash them. It was Freeland's turn to roll his eyes. With all due respect, Mr. Schlesinger, he's safe, trying badly not to yell. We're not saving money by using the same sales, and we enter in money with our cartoons. Either. Schlesinger retorted fiercely. Freeland was rather taken aback, but before he could speak again, his boss continued. It's a miracle that Warner hasn't closed this out of stand yet. He said bitterly, what does Disney do that we can't do to draw in crowds? I even heard they're going to start making cartoons in color from now on. Well, maybe. Freeland began, it's because of our new mascot. Schlesinger interrupted. We did everything Disney did. He's nice. He's friendly. He's got a squeaky voice. He's boring, Freeland. We tried to come up with Buddy cartoons that are funny, but we can't. Freeland protested. Laughed says he's just Bosco and Whiteface. You may as well stop coming up with new ideas. Freeland Schlesinger nearly shouted, because I've decided to close this place down. Nobody watches your cartoons, so there's no point in making any more. Freeland was shocked. You're fearless? He gasped. Yes. The boss muttered sullenly. Looney Tunes is no more. I'm sure you and the boys can find work elsewhere. Maybe he gave a whole lot. You can go see if Fleischer needs anybody to direct Betty Boop. You're being too hasty, sir. Freeland protested. Maybe it's Buddy who needs to go. Schlesinger didn't like where Freeland was going with his idea. Maybe Warner Brothers Animation needs a new mascot. Freeland went on. A mascot that lives up to the name of our cartoons. A new director needs new ink, new papers, new cells. The works. Schlesinger grumbled, and they all cost money. Which we're losing. Maybe we'll earn more money if people like this new mascot. Freeland countered. Schlesinger muttered as he massaged his forehead. Why did working in show business always mean that you had to spend money? Fine. He said gruffly after a brief pause, I'll give you a week to come up with a new character and a short. But he added warningly, if this cartoon's a stinker, turn back to race is closed, and you won't be able to change my mind this time. Freeland was relieved to hear this. Don't worry, sir. He replied, Wolf's Buddy's out of the picture. We'll all get the recognition we deserve. He turned and let the FS closing the door behind him. Schlesinger went back to soaking. Somehow he felt that he'd be losing his job once Freeland had finished his new cartoon. Chapter 2, The New Stars. A week later, Schlesinger walked cautiously up to Freeland's front door. He had a bad feeling that Freeland would probably use up more money than the studio was worth. Buddy's theater had not done that well in Eaters, and he didn't know whether this was due to Buddy or Hardaway. Reluctantly, he knocked on the door. After a short pause, Freeland answered it. Well, Schlesinger asked gruffly, where's your new star that'll save our job? The new director grinned confidently. I think you mean new stars, sir. He corrected his aging boss. Schlesinger's blue ran cold. New stars, Freeland? He asked, trying valiantly not to yell. How much did it cost you to make them? Freeland rolled his eyes. Don't you want to meet him before deciding to talk about cost? He asked. Besides, these new tunes are going to make so much money that people will want to see them all the time, and we'll have to let Buddy go. Schlesinger rolled his eyes at the young animator's enthusiast. All right, Freeland, he said at last. Let's see him. With an excited grin, Freeland opened the door to his effects. 6 wide-eyed tunes wandered into the corridor and up to the producer. Like Buddy, these tunes were animals. There were 2 cats, one male with overalls and one female wearing a pinafore, 2 puppies. Of this spectacle, don't let in a chubby piglet wearing a simple sweater. Schlesinger looked down at them. Then at Freeland, is this the best you can come up with? He asked gruffly. They looked like they came straight out of a Disney cartoon. The tunes looked at each other uncertainly. They didn't appear to be making a good first impression. Freeland was a damage. They haven't appeared in one yet, sir. He protested. But trust me, they're going to save our studio. I have the cartoon all planned out. He pointed down at the 6 tunes, who looked more hopeful at the animator's assurance. You see, I based them off those kids in those shorts produced by Home Roach. The animator explained, Roach. Schlesinger moved. Isn't he the guy who produces the Lionel and Hardy shorts? Yeah, but this is what's going to happen in the cartoon. Roland went on hurriedly. These tunes are going to be in one of those school recitals, and as he explained what the cartoon was going to be, Sliziner looked down at the fat little pig for some reason. Out of all these directors, he seemed to be the most eye-catching. The pig was aware that the middle-aged producer was looking at him. He tried looking anywhere but at the man. He could feel his cheeks turning red with embarrassment. Finally, the man spoke. So the pig's gonna be the lead, is he? He asked. Brenda stopped talking in confusion. Rocky, he stated in disbelief. No, sir, he isn't. Beans, here. He pointed to the main cast. Is the main star. He wants some candy from Oliver. He pointed to the oak, but he won't share. So Beans decides to ruin Oliver's final recital. Sliziner pondered as he heard what the animator had planned. So if these Oliver and Beans directors are the main stars, he asked, what was the point of making 4 other tunes? They'll be performing in the recital. Roland immediately replied, well, Kitty, he patted the frame of Cat's head. It's gonna recite some nursery rhymes. Haven't. He pointed to the twin puppies. I'm gonna sing I Haven't Got a Hat and Porky's gonna recite a poem. Sliziner wasn't feeling too sure about this cartoon. It sounded too much like something Buddy would star in. He looked down at Porky once more. I have an idea. He suggested, why don't you make the pig the lead instead of the cat? Porky pointed to himself and shocked as several pairs of eyes fell upon him. Well, I would, but he's kinda got a problem, Frelin replied. Sliziner shook his head. The pig had to be the main star in the cartoon. He was the only director he could remember. Surely he can speak for himself. Frelin he dismissed, looking down at the shivering swine. He asked, why don't you say something? Some? Porky swallowed out and opened his mouth. Thank you, Mr. Lulu. The producer's jaw dropped in shock. He could see what Frelin meant by a problem. You're right, Frelin, he stated bluntly. Do you have any idea how much it'll cost us for extra reels just so he can read his lines? There's no way he'll be famous with a stutter like that. Porky's heart sank and his lip quivered as he heard the producer say these words. It's a shame. Oh, Sliziner went on. He looked pretty interesting. Don't be too hard on him, sir. Frelin hastily interrupted as he saw Porky's expression. I don't know why he has it, but he can't help it. Before Sliziner could reply, he heard somebody approaching. Hi, you folks. Squeaking unbearably greeting voice. I've just finished working on another great cartoon. Buddy strode up to them. Is that normally wide-eyed clothes in a Cheshire cat grin? Who's that? Beans asked, speaking for the first time in a rather childish voice. That, Frelin answered grimly, is Buddy. You'll be replacing him once your first cartoon is released. But he reached the group of young tunes and regarded them with mild amusement. Hi, fellas. He greeted. I don't remember seeing you in any of my cartoons. The 6 tunes were confused as to why Frelin and Sliziner didn't like this wide-eyed tune. It seemed nice. They're brand new, Buddy. Sliziner explained with forced friendliness. Oh, Betty squeaked. Are they going to star in one of my new cartoons? Before either Sliziner or Frelin could reply, Ben spoke up. We're going to be an Arnold cartoon, he said cheerily. Before Frelin could stop him, Beans ahead and Fresh says that will replace you. Porky and the other tunes nodded gleefully. Frelin cringed. Even Sliziner looked down to see Buddy's expression as he visibly took in what the old clay candy just told him. The animated man's sickly sweet grin darkened into a skull, which made the 6 tunes quiver with fright. Buddy rounded on Frelin. His old like eyes blazing with anger. What's going on, Frelin? He squawked. You're replacing me with these brats. Now, Buddy. Frelin Townsend. Let him explain. You're making a big mistake, Paul. Buddy shrugged fiercely. I'm the fellow who's helping everyone cope with the depression. Everybody winced and a few windows broke. The way you've been acting, Sliziner thought of himself, you caused the depression. People love me, Buddy shrieked. The reason my cartoons haven't made much money is because those folks can't spare a dime. He pointed at Beans and the others. Beans and spots will ruin you. Nobody will want to watch a cartoon with some bratty cats or fat pigs. The 6 tunes were against by the man's rudeness Porky. Who had just been told that he wouldn't be a family star, looked down at his plump belly and tear in his eyes. Mr. Sliziner, sir. Everybody turned to see Chip Jones hurrying towards them. But he glared at the bespectacled young man. Shouldn't you be animating my next cartoon? He demanded. Jones entered him and turned his attention to Sliziner. He was carrying a sheet in his hand. We just got a telegram, he told his boss. Sliziner took it and read what it had to say. We're getting a new animator, boss, he told Frelin and Jones. His name's Frederick Ben Avery, according to this telegram. He used to work on those old cartoons at Universal. Things I've lit up, and he exclaimed, here's my name. He subsided as Buddy glowered at him. Sliziner looked rather annoyed by this news. At least we'll have more help with animators, he grumbled. But that means I'll have another guy to pay. Fresh says that you won't have to worry about money once we make our first cartoon, sir. Little Kitty piped up, shyly brushing her foot across the floor. Buddy snarled and rounded on Frelin. I'll show you, he squeaked. I'll make so much money for you bums that you'll have to give these brats," he pointed at Beans and his friends, the paint remover. Before anybody could say something, Billy shoved him out of the way and stormed off. "At least Hardaway's the only one who makes any sense in this outhouse," he shouted without looking back. "I say," Oliver remarked after a long silence, "what an unpleasant fellow." "Yes, he's," Frelin agreed. "But don't worry, we'll never see him again once your first carton is in, niggers. Don't count your chickens, Frelin," Sluthinger said gruffly as he took another look at the telegram. "Whatever this ever is," he thought to himself, "I don't know how to make a difference to our cartoon." Chapter 3, The Bad First Impression. Frelin was undone by Buddy Stretch. He just knew that the 6 tunes that he had just created would save Termite Trace. Yeah, the plot of the cartoon all planned out, and he was getting ready to direct his new star, Beans the Cat, in the short that would launch the studio into recognition. The 6 tunes stood in the wooden schoolhouse in which their first cartoon, I Haven't Got a Hat, was going to take place. Frelin had given everybody their instructions due to Slizinder's concerns about using up too much recording equipment with Porky. The short had to be filmed in just one take for Porky. Frelin had thought himself there was no way that people would find an animated pig with an incessant stutter or motion. He felt sure that Beans would move on to great things, and so would Little Kitty, and Aches and Oliver. Porky, on the other hand, was an experimental tune that he felt sure would most likely be left behind. The pig in question was standing in the corner of the schoolhouse, looking decidedly gloomy. It just wasn't fair. He didn't know how he got it stuttered. He was just drawn with it, something else was bothering him as well. When he had finally been drawn, he had overheard Frelin mutter something about an experiment. Frelin hadn't said that about Beans or the others. Did that mean he was a judge? Or rejects Slitzinger saying that it would cost too much to record his lines? He felt sure that this would be his first and last cartoon. "All right, everybody in position." Frelin suddenly called out, "It's time to start filming." Porky put a hand to his mouth as his fellow actors rushed to and fro to start work. He couldn't remember where he was supposed to go. What was he going to do? It was his first short, too. What would people say? "Porky, what are you doing?" Beans demanded impatiently. The pig looked up to see everybody looking at him with mingled expressions of amusement and impatience. Sorry, fellas," he apologized, his face turning red with embarrassment. Before you could go where was this? This is simple. "Just go to the desk, Porky," Frelin snapped, his voice saturated with annoyance. The pig scuttled over to the school desk and sat down in front of Beans, looking anywhere but at his peers. He saw a book and decided to read it, trying his hardest to remember the poem he was supposed to recite. Lights, camera, action. Frelin shouted. Porky swallowed hard as the parents began to speak and the other general tunes began to do what the script had dictated. Was he supposed to rest the charge of the Light Brigade or Paul Rivers ride? It was too late to look at his script to see. He was so busy fretting about this that he barely heard Miss Cabrina call and make some sort of announcement. Then everybody started clapping, causing him to jump. What was going on was this in the script. Suddenly, he felt somebody tap the book he was reading. Looking up, he saw an exasperated Beans point at the front of the class. The pig got to his feet and scuttled towards the stage. His mind racing. He was supposed to go first. He didn't remember Frelin saying that. He also couldn't remember which poem he was supposed to recite. Maybe he had to recite the both of them. He reached the stage and put his hands behind his back, slammed under the knot in his stomach. The pig got to his feet and scuttled towards the stage. His mind racing. He was supposed to go first. He didn't remember Frelin saying that. He also couldn't remember which poem he was supposed to recite. Maybe he had to recite the both of them. He reached the stage and put his hands behind his back, trying to undo the knot in his stomach. Listen, my children, and you shall hear. He recited, trying to remember the next dance of Beans, and the others tried not to look chagrined by his stuttering, but they were secretly annoyed by how long this filming was going to take. The midnight rider right past half pay. Remember, he continued, beginning to jig and slap it behind as if he was riding an invisible horse. On the 8th of April in CCC 75, he took out an American flag and marched on the spot. Frelin watched what was going on. Porky's performance was confirming his predictions. He couldn't tell if Beans and the others were acting, or if they were genuinely bored with having to sit through this recital, but he felt absolutely sure that the audience would have the same reaction. He jumped as he heard the other classmates all give an impatient whistle and was just in time to witness Porky being chased away by a group of dogs. Glad that's over, he thought to himself. Now Beans can shine. The dogs finally gave up the chase as Porky fled backstage. The poor pig was close to tears. That was a terrible performance. He had mixed the poems up, pointed in the wrong directions in order to prompt the other tunes who were improving the sound effects, and that bored everybody to death. Once he was sure he couldn't be heard on the camera, He began to cry. Don't feel bad. A dreadfully familiar voice mocked through his tear-filled eyes. Porky looked up to see Buddy gazing at him with a wide grin on his face. The fat little pig immediately knew why the whitey-eyed man was so cheerful. Yeah, the bear, he sobbed. Stop talking. Buddy interrupted. You're costing us too much money. Porky tried his best to look like he wasn't afraid of Buddy, but judging by the fact that the Snurkin Toon walked closer to him, he wasn't doing a good job. I don't know what Frelin was thinking, but he chirruped smugly. But once your carding bombs and he gets rid of you, he'll realize where he went wrong and come to his senses. I can't believe you thought that you would replace me. Miss the Toon who's single-handedly been keeping this studio afloat. Porky looked down at his trotters, unable to retort. He wasn't sure whether this was due to how steady was or his stutter, but he wouldn't have heard it anyway. He had vigorously turned on his heel and was walking away. I haven't time to talk to failed experience like you. He called over his shooter. I have to meet up with Hardaway to make a new funny cartoon. Porky's doodle on backstage in a puddle of tears. So, your Frederick being average listener sat in his advice. His stern eyes fixed on the human stew before him. If you don't mind, Mr. Slizender, the human timidly replied, I'd like it if people call me Tex. Tex? Slizender looked impressed by this request. You do realize I want my workers to animate cartoons, not name themselves after them, before Tex could say anything else. Slizender continued. What happened to your eye? The left one. I got a thumbtack in it. Tex explained as casually as possible. A thumbtack, Slizender wasn't sure if he'd heard right. Mind telling me how that happened? When I was working for Walton Lance, Tex elucidated. Me and the boys were horsing around in the studio and I excitedly got a thumbtack in my left eye. He trailed off as he saw Slizender look noticeably impressed. So you had that exciting through being reckless. He asked bluntly, and I so you're blind in that eye. Yes, it's reluctantly confirmed, but I think it improved my animating skills. Improved? Slizender grunted. Well, I don't know Lance let you get away with it, you never saw. But I won't. That people enduring my animators. Oh, don't worry, I won't. Tex hastily replied. Just to be safe, Slizender muttered. You can work on the shorts about those new tunes that Frelin came up with. Then, if you're lucky, you can move up to Buddy cartoons. Oh, lucky. Tex thought of himself the Buddy shorts were infamously bad. They made Lance's little shorts watchable. Don't think your job's sickered. Slizender snapped warningly. You're on trial. Don't go stabbing Clamphead or Jones or something. I won't, sir. Tex promised. But I might if I have to work with Buddy. He thought to himself. As he left Slizinder's advice, he couldn't help thinking about the new tunes that the boss had mentioned. What were they like? They couldn't be as bad as Buddy's. Maybe they were actually funny. Perhaps he could help to improve them. Chapter 5. An unexpected show stealer. Slizender couldn't believe it. He was dreaming. He had to be. People like the short from To My Terrace. The short that one of his animators had worked on. He had gone over the telegram several times to find some sort of error. There had to be some sort of mistake. Surely this message had been intended to have been sent to Disney or someone else. Then again, why would Jack Warner write to Disney? Slizender set the telegram aside for the first time since Clamphead had given it to him and Pa. It was one of Frelin's shorts that happened, praise. And interestingly, this particular short had nothing to do with Buddy, but rather that chubby little pig and his friends. It was probably dumb luck, but he thought you should have phoned Frelin anyway. Frelin did seem surprised at all when he was summoned to the affairs to receive the news. I told you my new tunes would be a hit, sir. He grinned. We ought to be getting rid of Buddy and making Beans our new mascot. Beans. Slizender looked oddly at Frelin. Who's Beans? The new animator rolled his eyes. He was the cat in the dungaree, sir. This time I haven't got a hat. Surely you must remember. He replied in exasperation. The cat. The Yankee made to rack his brain. I thought he was that chubby little pig. Porky! Frelin exclaimed, dumbfounded. But you did like his Stuttering Start. Slizender sniffed dismissively. It's a shame. He remarked. He was the only member of that gang of yours that looked loony. All right, back to work, Frelin. Chris Frelin wasn't sure how he should be feeling about this news. The good news was that his first cartoon with the Beans gang was a success. The bad news was that the only tune that audiences had loved that was Porky. It was impossible that Porky could be the new star. That poem recital was the best thing he could do. If there was one thing Frelin felt sure about, it was that there was no way that Beans was going to become another Buddy. Beans was going to be the figurehead of Warner Brothers cartoons. Beans was going to save the studio, as well as everybody's jobs. As he walked back to the studio, he heard the chatter of his peers coming from inside. One of the voices sounded unfamiliar. So you fellers are stuck making those Buddy cartoons? The unfamiliar voice asked. Unfortunately, Clamphead confirmed. We had to come up with something after Harmon and I soon ran out on us. It's a shame it was another Bosco. One of the world's greatest questions is how we're still working. Jones agreed. You poor fellers. The unfamiliar boss log. I usually go to watch Buddy's cartoons when I have trouble sleeping. Grellin raising eyebrows here at everyone has log. Whoever was speaking must be the new animator that the telegram had mentioned. But Flint's cartoons ain't any better. The unfamiliar boss admitted personally. I believe that haze code they set up a few years back took all the fun out of animating. You ain't wrong there. Clumphead agreed bitterly. Lee sure found his way around it somehow. Wish we knew how he did it. Brillum decided to meet the newcomer. If he hated Buddy as much as they did, it couldn't be too bad. He opened the door, and the one chatter briefly stopped before his peers recognized him. Hello, Frizz. Clumphead greeted, placing a hand on the shoulder of the unfamiliar man. Thank God. I thought you were Lee. This is the new animator that telegram we got was talking about. My name's Fred Everett. The newcomer shyly stated to Frelin, but everyone calls me Tex. Frelin cautiously extended a hand, and Everett shook it awkwardly. There was a short pause before Clampett spoke again. I haven't got a hat did pretty well. I hear Frizz. He stated, although that pig was the only one anyone logged at. Frelin felt slightly warm as the others logged. It's only their first short ball. He replied through gritty teeth, I'm sure Beans will do better next time. Well, they got more logs than Buddy ever did, Clampett remarked. I think you ought to do some solo shorts with the pig. I think you got yourself a winner with him. Don't let Buddy hear that. Jones grumbled as he gently applied some turpentine to an old cell that had been used several times before. He's been impossible to work with ever since those tools were made. It's a good job he only spends his time with Ben. The runs out of this paint remover all over him. I still think Beans could save the studio. Brillin persisted. All she needs is another short, and Disney could be taking us seriously in no time. Who's this Beans you keep talking about, Frizz? Clampett asked with a raised eyebrow. Is he the name of the pigs? Brillin closed his eyes and exhaled in defeat. I need a break, he muttered, turning abruptly to leave the studio. What's eating him? Clampett said to no one in particular. If he doesn't like the pig, Everett quietly commented, you reckon he'll let me work with him? I guess so. Toons replied as he vigorously shook the bottle of paint remover. We often share tunes when it comes to cartoons we want to direct. Although no one wants to work with Buddy, putting Clampett, except old Ben Hardaway. He's welcome to him. That's good. Everett